This is the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. It runs Android, it plays all your old retro games, it plays some newer retro systems like Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast, even some GameCube and PSP and PS2. It's freaking awesome, but it has a few issues that you should know about, and I love it to bits. Let me tell you why. Yo, I'm TechDweeb, how's it going? Good? That's good. Yeah, things haven't been great for me, to be honest. The other day I had to drive almost an hour to go pick up my cat's ear medicine, and then when I got there they didn't even have my prescription ready, so I went to the store while I was waiting and they didn't have Diet Root Beer or Mike and Ike's, and then on my way home a bird pooped right in the middle of my window and I turned on the windshield wipers and that just spread it around and made a big mess. And then when I was stopped at a traffic light I was picking my nose and someone outside my car told me I was gross, and then my cell phone wouldn't connect to my car's Bluetooth, so I had to listen to my D&D audiobooks through my phone's speaker and it wasn't loud enough, and it was just such a crappy day and I was really down in the dumps. But when I got home, my mom said that something came in the mail, and from that moment on, my whole life turned around, and I'm as happy as I've ever been. What's that? You want to know what came in the mail? Well, it's none of your business. But I'll tell you anyways, I guess. I got this. This is the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. And let me just get this out of the way right away. I've been having a ton of fun with this thing. I'm super impressed. I have lots that I want to show you about why I like it, and some things you should probably know if you're thinking about getting one, but overall I think it's awesome, and I'm excited to be able to tell you all about it. I'm gonna do a few videos on this device because there's lots to talk about. This video is gonna be about the device itself, although I will show you some gameplay. And I have another video planned where I'm gonna show you the performance in emulation, everything from low-end to high-end emulation. And then another video where I'm gonna show off how it performs in like Android games and streaming PC games and stuff like that. But first, let's unbox it. Well, I already unboxed it, obviously, so I'm gonna rebox it for you. Just use your imagination. I've known about this device for a while now. I've had my eye on the original Retroid Pocket 2, but it never really appealed to me. I don't usually go for these wide handhelds. I'm more of a vertical format mini Game Boy kind of guy. As you probably guessed from my previous retro handheld reviews, I like the pocketability of these devices, you know, like the BU Mini, which is my current favorite retro emulation device. My video review on this is linked in the description below if you want to check that out. I'm not super into the idea of the really wide format handhelds. They're not as pocket friendly. They're bigger, they're heavier, and they're usually more expensive too. The original Retroid Pocket 2 did appeal to me though. It looked like a relatively small, wide handheld, and it seemed to have good functionality, but it didn't seem worth it for the price. The chip wasn't great. It used that old RK3326 chipset that lots of the other handhelds use, and it ran Android, but it wasn't a touchscreen, which sounded like it would cause some issues. And lots of the reviews of that device said that yeah, it did cause issues with Android and entirely physical controls. So when the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus came along, with its upgraded CPU and GPU, 2 GB of RAM, 3.5-inch touchscreen display, 4000 mAh battery, 5 GHz Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Android 9, I was impressed. And then I found out how much it was. $99. That seemed amazing, like too good to be true. So I pulled the trigger, placed my order, and I was told that I'm on the waiting list and it'll ship up who knows when. And then a few months later, it just showed up one day, and I immediately fell in love with it. It's not all smooth sailing. There are some big issues that I'll talk about in a bit, but overall, I'm super happy that I have it, and I'm really enjoying tinkering with it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's freaking unbox this thing already, and I'll tell you all about it. In the box, we get the Retroid Pocket 2, a useless little instruction manual, if you like instructions printed on the rolls of toilet paper. It came with a screen protector that I already put on, and as always, I immediately got a piece of crud stuck right under it in the middle of the screen, even though I was being super careful, so that's fun. Also, in the box is a USB-C cord. And let's see what kind of cookie we get today. Oh look, it's a ginger snap cookie. My grandma likes these cookies. I don't really like ginger snap cookies, so I'm not gonna eat the rest of this. So let's talk about the device itself. Here's the specs. Did you catch that? It's about the same size as my cell phone, but thicker, obviously. As for the hardware, well, I love it. I love the look and feel. It's a great weight in the hands. Not too light and flimsy, not super heavy, a good weight distribution. The plastic is ever so slightly textured and it has a really premium feel in the hands. A quick tour, we have a 3.5-inch screen, menu, start and select underneath, dual front-facing speakers, which is very nice to see, and they actually sound pretty good, face buttons and joysticks and stuff. The left joystick is a proper Switch-style joystick, but the right joystick is a slider. And you know what? I like the slider. I know lots of people hate it. I saw some people asking if they could replace the slider with a joystick, but I'm actually the opposite. I like sliders, and this is a good slider, and I actually wish that I could replace the joystick on the left with a slider. I know, so many of you are cringing right now. So I bet so many of you hate the sliders. I know, I'm a weirdo, but I like what I like. If I could have a lower profile slider on the left here that reduces the thickness of the device when it's in my pocket, that's what I want. No way to do that though. Swapping joysticks for sliders and vice versa, as far as I know, that's not possible. There's no L3 or R3 buttons on the thumbsticks, which is sometimes a bummer. Well, more on that later. The D-pad is really great. This is exactly the kind of D-pad I like. It's not too low, lots of travel, some nice spring to it, and it feels perfectly responsive when using it. Same with the face buttons. They're barely mushy at all, lots of travel, and they have a satisfying thunk at the bottom end of the movement. They feel just like the joystick. That's what I like, is when the joystick and the buttons feel like they're the same thing. Up top, the shoulder buttons have an awesome shape to them. The bumpers are raised up a tiny bit, so you can rest your fingers on the triggers and rock your fingers a bit to hit the bumpers. The bumpers have a slightly different feel to them. They're more clicky than the rest of the buttons. They're fine, but I wish they had the exact same feel as the buttons and the D-pad, just for consistency. They're like the triggers do. They feel roughly the same as the D-pad and buttons. And the actual shape of them is very comfortable to rest your fingers on while you're holding the device. This little lip under the triggers is nice because you can rest your fingers under here, under the triggers, and that lets the weight of the device sort of distribute there on your finger so you don't have to hold it as tight. It feels perfect. Also up top we have the power button, the volume buttons, USB-C for both data transfer and charging, and a micro HDMI port, which was a very nice surprise, and I'll show you why I like that later. Underneath we have a micro SD card slot with one of those rubber doors, and you will need a micro SD card to enjoy this thing. It doesn't come with one, and it doesn't come with any games installed. More on that in a bit. Oh, and I'll mention now that you can use your USB-C port to access the contents of the device and the SD card on your PC. So once you put the SD card in, you won't need to take it out often, which I definitely prefer. And there's a headphone jack here if you want to use this as a Walkman. Oh, and it got built in 5 GHz Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So there you go, there's the tour. Let's fire this thing up. At startup, it has a knockoff GBA boot logo thing, which I don't like, but what do you do? Before we get further along, let's talk about the screen. It looks good, not amazing. It's definitely not a super high quality screen. It's not very crispy, but it's not terrible. It gets the job done, it just doesn't knock your socks off. It's 3.5 inches, 640 by 480 resolution, and it's a touchscreen. And the touchscreen makes a world of difference. I guarantee I wouldn't like this device nearly as much if I didn't have the ability to tap buttons and scroll menus and stuff on the screen. So right away when you boot up the device for the first time, you'll go through a setup menu. You can redo this at any point. It doesn't mess up any of your apps or anything to redo it, so I'll show you now. It'll go through, connecting to Wi-Fi, regular Android setup stuff, and then it'll ask you what apps you want to install, because it comes pre-loaded with a bunch of apps and emulators and stuff. Then it'll ask you what you want your default launcher to be. Taki Udon, that YouTuber guy, he has a good starting guide. His video is very easy to follow. I'm not going to tell you how to set this thing up. I'll link his video below. But honestly, it's not simple or straightforward. You have to be comfortable tinkering, setting up front ends and configuring RetroArch and making your own ROM library on your own SD card. It's not crazy complex or anything. I found out how to do everything I wanted easily enough on my own. And I'll show you what apps I use and how they work. But it's definitely not a device that you can just turn on and start gaming without putting in some effort. You have to tinker. That's a big downside here, in my opinion. I guess it's only a downside if you want a plug-and-play device though. I mean, I like to tinker. I like having the power to install my own apps and customize them and change 1,001 settings to get things running the way I like it. But if you like to just turn on your new device, copy over some ROMs, and then start playing immediately, well, yeah, this device is into that. Anyways, with that out of the way, I'll show you how I did set this up, and how I like to use it. Well, here we are, up and running, and it's Android. I mean, it feels like Android. It's running Android 9, which is good. If you ever use an Android phone, then you know what to expect here. Notifications, the settings up top, swipe through your pages for your apps, has the Google Play Store, Google Chrome, YouTube, all the regular Android stuff. I'll show you the Retroid launcher in a bit, but I installed my own launcher to use as default, the Nova launcher, which I like because it's simple, it's quick, it's snappy, gives you lots of options for customizing your layout and icon size and stuff. Oh, and of course I needed to install my custom wallpaper that I made of my cat Hermione. I'll include a link to that below because I know you'll probably want to use this on your PC and phone and Retroid Pocket and be cool like me. But I mean, it works like Android, you know, which is to say that it works perfectly. You can navigate with the controls or use the touchscreen, connect to your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth stuff like headphones or controllers. You can play Android games on it too. Real quick, here's a Minecraft running, and as you can see, it works great. And here's that Android Need for Speed game, whatever it's called. I downloaded that. Oh, and while I'm here, I might as well show you, this game doesn't support physical controls, but Retroid has this little dongle. You know, you could swipe it in from the side, and it has a bunch of different settings on there. But this has this little tool to let you map physical controls to the screen. So you just drag down, like here, I could drag the thumbstick down onto the screen, and then I could use my thumbsticks to control the car in the game. I know you could do that kind of thing in Android anyway, but it's built in here, and you don't have to, you know, mess with third-party apps or anything. It works great. It's nice that that's there. So yeah, you could play Android games on it too. I mean, it is basically the function of an Android phone with built-in controls and no SIM card. Oh man, if they added a SIM card slot to this, that'd be freaking awesome. I would totally use this as my phone if I could. But I'm a tech dweeb, so that's to be expected. I mean, you could use it to browse the web or watch your favorite YouTube channel while you eat your cereal.
Oh, hey, what's up? Thanks for clicking on the video.
Install all your favorite apps and games from the Google Play Store. Android stuff. You know Android stuff. Well, that's what you get here. But you're not here to do Android stuff. You got your phone for that. You're here to play retro games, right? So what's the retro gaming experience like on the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus? Well, it's great, but you'll need to put in some work. First, let me show you the custom Retroid launcher. I do not like this launcher. I'm never going to use it, and I'll tell you why in a minute. It seems fine at first. It's a very bare bones launcher with some extra features to help you get set up. It's not as simple as just adding your ROMs and playing immediately, but it's not too complex. You can add standalone apps from the first screen here, and you can rearrange them as tiles. Easy enough. And then we have this emulation section down here. And in here, you can add whatever systems you want. There's a big list of systems, and then when you have your systems all added, you can use this setup option to create a ROM folder on your SD card, and then you could copy over your ROMs to the right directory and put your BIOS files in the BIOS directory, and in theory, it should work. In each of the systems, you can add the default SD card directory, which is the directory that it created, and then it'll detect your ROMs and identify the games and scrape all the art, and then you can play the games. The scraping works pretty good. You know, it doesn't do every last game, but it gets most of them, and you can manually grab the art for whichever ones it missed. That seems pretty good, right? Nope. Because this launcher is glitchy AF. I have been wrestling with this thing for days, and I'm just freaking done at this point. See, if anything goes wrong, if the app crashes or whatever while it's doing something important, like importing a ROM list or scraping the art, that the whole thing breaks and becomes unusable. I've had this happen twice now, and it's freaking obnoxious. So my launcher is broken right now. See, in my systems list, there's no system showed. There was a big list here before, but now there's nothing. And when I click all systems, the app crashes. And then when I try to add folders of ROMs to search, it doesn't detect anything. And none of the games launch anymore either. See, these games, they all used to launch fine, and now I get this error. I've done everything I could think of to fix it, but I mean, this launcher is just borked. And the only way to use it at this point is to clear the app's data in the Android settings and then redo everything. which takes a long time. It's tedious. You need to add all your apps and set up your menu, and then add your systems, and then add your ROMs, one folder at a time, and let it scrape the art, which takes freaking forever. But don't give it too much to do at once or it'll crash, and then you add more and let it do it again, and then after you spend a bunch of time getting things all set up, it'll probably break again, as it has for me twice, and you have to delete the data and start over. This is the third time I've had to redo the setup, and I'm just done with this. I mean, maybe it'll work for you. I hope it does, because it seems easy enough, but I hate it. Luckily, there's another great choice. There's a launcher called Dig. It comes pre-installed on this device, as long as you select it in the setup program. I've used this on my phone for a long time now, and it's a great front end. It's not perfect. It has its own little glitches and annoyances, but not nearly as bad as the Retroid launcher, and it hasn't broken, causing me to redo all my setup work. This is the one that I'm sticking with. It's pretty much the same as the other one. It looks better though, in my opinion. You can add your systems, point it to the ROM folder, and it'll detect your ROMs and scrape the art. The box scraping in the Retroid launcher is supposed to be amazing, but Dig did pretty much just as good as that did. And for any games that it doesn't work with, you can manually grab the art from the web with the push of a button, and it automatically adds it as the box art. And you have choices for how it shows the game list. I like the cover flow, but the grid is nice and easy to browse, or just like a list. And this app has a ton of themes that you can use to customize it. See, I have this sweet animated background and custom icons, and I have this all set up, and it works just perfectly. Like I said, I've used this front end for a long time now because I use it on my phone, so I know how it works, and it's easy to use once you learn the ropes. I'm not going to go into how to set all this up and the best settings to use and stuff in this video. I might do an entire video on setting up Dig on an Android device. Let me know in my comments if you'd find that useful. But for now, just know that this is how I like to browse my ROM collection. This is the only front end I need for retro emulation. As for usability, well, it works just awesome. I just set up the RetroArch hotkeys so that it can bring up the menu and exit the games. RetroArch is a bit of a beast to figure out how to do everything and save the settings, you know, globally for each core, the configs and stuff. I actually made a video where I showed you how to set up RetroArch on the Miyoo Mini, but the same principles apply here. Check out that video if you need a hand figuring out RetroArch. I think you'd probably find it useful. So, using Dig, I can browse through my games. Here I am looking through my Game Boy games. Let's fire up my favorite retro game, Burger Time. I've already applied the custom palette for the Game Boy emulation, so it has that greenish Game Boy aesthetic that I like. And the emulation works perfectly, obviously. When I want to bring up the RetroArch menu, I can just press my hotkeys, and when I want to exit, I can press the start and select. That's the hotkey I have set up, and then I'm back to Dig. It's easy. As for the emulation performance in these old systems, there are lots of older 16-bit era games that are hard to emulate on cheap devices. Like this one, it's Duke Nukem Advance for the Game Boy Advance. This game doesn't run well on any of my other emulation devices, but it's running fine here. And this one, Yoshi's Island for SNES. It doesn't run well on most devices, but it runs with no problems here. So obviously it plays everything fine at the low end, but for higher end gameplay, well, this is the most impressive aspect of this device, and it's the reason that I love this thing. Keep in mind that this thing costs 99 bucks. Most devices at this price point play everything up to PS1, okay, with maybe some Sega Saturn. You know, most of them don't do Nintendo 64 or Dreamcast very well, and definitely not anything like GameCube or PSP or PS2, and I'm not gonna get your hopes up. It doesn't play all the high-end stuff perfectly, but it does play lots of high-end stuff. A surprising amount is playable. Like GameCube and PS2, around maybe 50% of the library is playable, and lots of it plays perfectly if you still use the right settings and stuff. You'll be able to play pretty much all the Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast without any issues. It'll play most PSP, and no problem with Nintendo DS, and it'll play some GameCube. And even some PS2. PS2. Like, it's 99 bucks. And it plays freaking Dreamcast and PSP and GameCube and PS2. Are you kidding me? Like I said, I'm going to show you some performance comparisons of a bunch of games in higher end systems in another video. So this is just a little taste of what's to come. Not everything ran great. Some stuff just won't work at all. But lots does. Here I am playing Panzer Dragoon on Saturn. And here's Crazy Taxi 2 on Dreamcast.
Don't work too hard. I'll show you next time.
Wait, you gotta pick me up.
And here's Star Fox on Nintendo 64. And here's Zelda for GameCube. And here's Mario Kart on Nintendo DS. And here's Simpsons Hit and Run on PS2. And here's Burnout on PSP. I'll show you more higher end emulation in another video soon, so get subscribed if you haven't already. There's two more things that I love about this device that I just have to show you. The first is that this device has a built-in 5 GHz Wi-Fi, and it runs Android, which means that you can use Moonlight to stream games from your PC. So check this out. I'm gonna launch Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and it starts up fine. I just changed the resolution to a 4:3 resolution, like 1280 by 1024, and it runs full screen. I'm running this on my PC with an RTX 3080. So this is running with everything maxed out and ray tracing. And check out the performance. It's freaking perfect. No compression artifacts. There's like zero latency. I have a good Wi-Fi network, so I know this would work well on a 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi, but you should be fine on any 5 GHz Wi-Fi connection. Like, this feels amazing. This feels like I'm playing this native on the device. It's that good. I mean, it's a tiny 3.5-inch screen, so you're not gonna want to play the super detailed, highly precise, difficult PC games on this device. But like action platformers or simpler games, no problem running them here. The only big bummer is that you can't have L3 and R3 buttons. There was talk online that the Retroid peoples would let us use the volume buttons as the L3 and R3, but we can't do that yet, unfortunately. And obviously this requires you to have a PC that can play these games, of course. And you can even stream emulated games. So you can emulate GameCube or whatever on your PC, and then your little handheld device can play GameCube games in the living room, or the bathtub, or while my mom cuts my hair. And look at this! Look at what I'm streaming. I can't say it out loud because I don't want the Big N to kidnap my mom and slowly send me her body parts in boxes, so let's just call it Snitch emulation. I'm running Snitch games. This Retroid Pocket 2 is a Snitch Lite. That's freaking awesome if you ask me. Another cool thing that I liked was this micro HDMI port. Yeah, you could hook this up to a TV or a computer monitor. I wish I had one nearby to show you. Oh, look at that. I do. Cool. Yeah, you just get one of these micro HDMI dongles and shove it in the top and boom. You have a little home console that can play games on your TV. And not only that, you can hook up a Bluetooth gamepad or multiple Bluetooth gamepads and be able to play them just like an actual console. So here I am firing up some games and I'm playing them on my TV with my little portable console. I mean, I know you can do this sort of thing with lots of these devices, but I just keep coming back to the price. This was 99 bucks. Can you tell me of another retro handheld that runs native Android games, a Nintendo 64, a Dreamcast, and some GameCube and PSP that you can plug into a TV and use Bluetooth gamepads like a home console, all for 99 bucks? You can't, can you? No, you can't. So shut up. Oh, let's wrap it up. If it's not clear by now, I'm super into this device. Yeah, there are some shortcomings. The smallish, average quality screen, the massive headache I had wrestling with that stupid launcher, the fact that nothing works out of the box. It all requires at least a medium amount of effort to get things up and running, and even then you'll be constantly tinkering with the interface and the front ends and the emulators and Android and the applications to get them all working as good as they can. But if you're okay with that, you get so much gaming potential with this thing. You can obviously run your classic retro games like Game Boy Advance or Super Nintendo or PS1 or Saturn, but you also get your Dreamcast games and your Nintendo 64 games. You get some of your GameCube games, and PS2, and PSP, and Nintendo DS, and native Android games, and PC streaming. This is the sort of functionality and performance that I'd expect from a device that costs more than this. 99 bucks, and you get all that? Are you kidding me? This is a no-brainer in my opinion. If it sounds too good to be true, that's exactly what I thought. And I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. But I'm happy to report that it is that good. It's a great device that's definitely worth the price of admission. If they could tighten up the user experience and fix that launcher, then we'd have the perfect little handheld at this price point. As it is now, it's not perfect, but it is pretty awesome, not gonna lie. So I'm giving the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus an 11 out of 13 dweebs, with a bonus Tech Dweeb seal of retro gaming goodness. And I'll toss in a can of Diet Root Beer, because I like Diet Root Beer, and a box of Oreos, and some black licorice, and some popcorn. Sorry guys, I'm just hungry I guess. So I'm gonna end the video here. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think of this device? Do you have any questions, suggestions for future videos? Leave your comments below. I'll read and respond to all of them. And while you're down there, give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, or a thumbs down if you hated it. Subscribe, or I'll do terrible things to some innocent woodland creatures. As always, I'm Tech Dweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.